Hi, I'm Trent Woodbury, and this is how to play Disruptopia, a 2 to 5 player strategy game that takes 1 to 2 hours, where each player is a different CEO of an AI company where they're trying to take over the world. Let's start with setup. The first thing you want to do is put the net worth tracker in the middle of the table where all players can access it, and then put the reputation tracker and world map next to it. Exact orientation isn't super important, just as long as everyone can reach it. On the net worth tracker, the first thing you want to do is put a tracker token for each player, their color, on the startup net worth at the top. And then you can take tech workers 4 through 8 for each color that's playing. This is a 4-player setup, so you'll see we don't have white tokens here. But we take tech worker 4 and put it on the far left, and then we have 5, 6, 7, 8 in that order. The order does matter here, so we want 7 and 8 under the billionaire net worth. And then for millionaires, we want a 2 VP tag and 2 1 VP tags. This is for a 4-player game. If you have a 2-player game, you simply need 1 VP tag for both millionaire and billionaire. For a 3-player game, you would put a 2 VP and a 1 VP on both millionaire and billionaire. But for a 4 or 5-player game, you're going to have a 2 VP tag and then 2 1 VP tags in both millionaire and billionaire. So it's always the same between millionaire and billionaire. Next, you want to put player tokens in the model version 0 slot and in the compute level 1 slot, and then fill up all of the presence tokens, once again matching the player token color to the color that's on the board. So you can see yellow matches to yellow here. You can place the funds near the net worth tracker where everyone can access them. And then on the world map, for a 2 or 3-player game, you're going to put 1 subsidy token in every single region. So it would look like that. But for a 4 or 5-player game, you'll have 2 subsidy tokens in every single region. Then each player will put one of their tracker tokens in a starting region. You don't take the subsidy token from that starting region, so you just put your token down. Next, put the 3 decks of cards below the world map and make sure to shuffle all 3 of them separately so that influence cards, sabotage cards, and research cards are separated from each other. Next, let's talk about setting up the reputation board. Take a tracker token for each player who's playing and put them on reputation 0. And then you have the reputation tiles for 0, 1, 2, and 3. Make sure to shuffle each of the piles of tokens separately, so don't shuffle in the 3s with the 2s. For a 2 or 3-player game, you're going to put 1 token of each level down. And for a 4 or 5-player game, you're going to put a 2nd token down. For level 0, once it's shuffled, just make sure the number of level 0 tokens you put down matches the player count. So we currently have 4, so we're going to put 4 of these down. The final stage of setup is setting up your personal space. Every player's personal space should look roughly the same. You're going to have your player aid anywhere you see convenient, and then your quarterly strategy next to your power and income tracker, and then your corporate and personal funds are going to be here next to that. You should start with tech workers 1, 2, and 3. These will be playable in the first round, and then set your power and your income to 3. Finally, take 3 monies and put them in your corporate funds, and hand the player 1 token to anyone. Doesn't matter. Disruptopia is played in a series of rounds. At the beginning of each round, the first thing you'll do is draw 1 card from each deck. So I'll draw 1 research card, 1 sabotage card, and 1 influence card. You will then discard if you have more than 5 down to the hand limit of 5. Starting the game, I only have 3, so I can keep all 3 of these. This is hidden information, so don't show your cards to other players. The next thing you'll do is set your quarterly strategy. You start the game with 3 tech workers, each of which has a number on it from 1 to 3, and you're going to put these on different actions of your quarterly strategy to determine what you're going to do that round. Once all players have placed their tech workers on their quarterly strategy, you go around clockwise, starting from the player with the player 1 token, and each player executes their quarterly strategy. Once all players have executed their quarterly strategy, you pass the player 1 token clockwise and start the next round. The game ends at the end of the round where any player reaches model version 7. At the end of that round, each player calculates their victory points. You can see a reference to your victory points on your player aid, and we'll get to that after we go through a bit more of the game. Let's start by looking at the different actions that you can take in your turn. The first is buy chips. So if I put one tech worker on buy chips, then I can take that action. Buy chips will allow me to increase my compute along the compute track. Compute doesn't give you any victory points at the end of the game, but your model version can never be higher than your compute. So for example, the blue player can upgrade to model version 1, but they can't upgrade to model version 2 until they've upgraded their compute to level 2 first. Next to the compute level is a price that you need to pay to make that upgrade. So if I want to upgrade from compute level 1 to 2, I need to pay $2. Any payments you make are made from your corporate funds. And since you start with 3 monies in your corporate funds, I can take my 3 monies, get 1 back, and then I've made the payment so I can increase my compute to compute level 2. Now I'm going to show you a bit of a limitation. If I wanted to increase my compute to level 3, you'll see that this is in a different box under the millionaire net worth. I can't upgrade to compute level 3 until I'm a millionaire. Likewise, I can't increase to compute level 5 until I'm a billionaire. But once I'm a billionaire, I can increase to compute level 5, 6, or 7. In case you're curious, you could still become a millionaire or billionaire with compute level 1. The next action you can take is recruit, which allows you to take a tech worker from the board. You always take the lowest numbered available tech worker, and you can immediately play them, meaning even while executing your quarterly strategy, you can put them on an action and perform that action this round. However, since this is tech worker 4, this action will necessarily come last. Just like we saw with compute, you have different tech workers available at startup, millionaire, and billionaire level. You can't access tech workers 5 and 6 until you're a millionaire, and you can't recruit tech workers 7 and 8 until you're a billionaire. Also, to the left of the tech worker is the price of recruiting that tech worker. So if I'm going to recruit tech worker number 4, I need to pay $2 from my corporate funds before I can get that tech worker. The third action you can take is train model, and this is the most complex action. First, let's start with what you need to have to train a new model. We've already talked about the fact that your model version can never be higher than your compute level. So the blue player can currently upgrade to model version 1 and upgrade again to model version 2. However, all the other players can currently only upgrade to model version 1 right now. You don't pay for model versions with money. Instead, you pay with tech workers. To upgrade to model version 1 or 2, you place 1 tech worker on this action. To increase to model version 3 or 4, you need to put 2 tech workers down. For 5, 6, and 7, you need 3 or 4 tech workers. You also can't upgrade to model version 3 until you're a millionaire, or model version 5 until you're a billionaire. So for example, let's say I'm at model version 1 right now. I'm orange, and my compute is at level 4. I want to increase to model version 3 this round. To do this, I need to put 1 tech worker to get to model version 2, and then 2 more tech workers to get to model version 3. This means that my quarterly strategy would look like this. I just have 3 tech workers on train model. The first tech worker would get me to model version 2, and then the next 2 tech workers would get me to model version 3. Once I've increased my model to model version 3, for each increase, I gain 1 reputation. To increase your reputation, simply move it up once on the track. But since I increased my model version twice, I get to do that twice. The second thing you do when you train a model is you increase your power for every 2 regions you have presence in. Let's say that orange has presence in 3 different regions. This means that I would gain 1 power for every time I increased my model version, since you round down. So this would be the same increase in power as if I only had presence in 2 regions. To increase your power, you go to your power tracker and you move it up. So since I increased my power by 1 twice, I would go from 3 to 5. That's also going to increase my income to 5, but we'll get to that later. The fourth action you can take is increasing your net worth. We've talked about how you need to increase your net worth to access more tech workers, higher model and compute levels, but let's talk through the action itself. To do this, you put a tech worker on this action, and then you increase from whatever net worth you're at to the next level. So from startup to millionaire and from millionaire to billionaire. Once you're a billionaire, you can no longer increase your net worth. If you're the first person to become a millionaire, then you gain the bonus token associated with that, which you can simply put in your play area. Becoming a millionaire has a cost associated with it. You need to pay $3 and you lose 2 reputation. The $3 must be paid from your corporate funds and simply goes back to the money supply. And to lose 2 reputation, you move down 2 slots on the reputation tracker. You can go below 0, but you can never go below -3. And if you're already at -3, you can't lose more reputation. So you couldn't increase your net worth if your reputation was already -2, for example. Becoming a billionaire costs 5 monies, and you lose 4 reputation to do that. Just like becoming a millionaire, you gain whatever is the highest valued remaining VP token. Next up is marketing. For each tech worker I put on marketing, I'm going to gain a benefit. This benefit is dependent upon your net worth. So if you're a startup, you get to increase your reputation by 3, going up 3 slots on the reputation track. If you're a millionaire, you gain 1 power, increasing your power on your power track by 1, and you also get to increase your reputation by 1. If you're a billionaire, you simply gain 2 power. So your power goes up by 2. The next action is scale presence. For each tech worker you have on this action, you're going to expand into a new market, paying the price associated with that, and claim any subsidy tokens. Let's get into it. As a startup, you can only expand into 1 new market. As a millionaire, you can expand into 4 new markets, and as a billionaire, you can expand into the final 4 markets. You always start at the top and move down, and there's a cost associated with this listed to the left. So I would pay $1 to expand into a new market that needs to be orthogonally adjacent. So I could go here, since I already have a piece here, or I could go here or here. But I couldn't go here since that's diagonal. So let's say I place here after I've paid the $1, and then I get to claim any subsidy tokens that remain. Since there are 2 subsidy tokens, I can grab either one, it doesn't matter. And the subsidy token is placed on my player mat in the subsidy token region. Subsidy tokens will boost your income, and we'll talk more about that in the raise funds action. The next action is play cards. Each card has a cost on their top right telling you how many tech workers you need to spend to play that card. If a card says 0 tech workers, you can play that card at any time during your turn. Otherwise, you can only play the card if you've put the number of tech workers on play card associated with the price of the card. So if the price of the card was 2, I'd need to put 2 consecutive tech workers on play card. There are 3 decks of cards in the game, but there are 2 types of cards: effect cards and action cards. Effect cards are put in one of your effect card slots. When you've paid the tech workers to play an effect card, you immediately gain the effect, which is listed at the bottom. You also need to make sure that you meet the requirements for that card, which are listed right above the effect. Effect cards will stay here, and every round you can put tech workers there to replay it, but you only have 3 slots. In this example, I've paid 2 tech workers to play this card, which has a cost of 2. However, all of my effect card slots are filled up. I can pick any of these 3 cards, remove it, and place it in the discard pile, and then replace it with the card that I want to play. The next type of card is an action card, which is a bit simpler. You simply perform the action that's described at the bottom, making sure you meet any requirements above, and then you discard the card. All cards are discarded face up next to their corresponding pile. The final action you can take is raise funds. The first thing you do is siphon off any remaining corporate funds into your personal funds. So anything in your corporate funds will go over here. Your personal funds cannot be touched for the rest of the game, but they're going to give you VP at the end of the game, potentially. Next, you collect your income. And now's a good time to talk about calculating your income. Your income is equal to your power plus any subsidy tokens. So in this example, my power is currently 7, and I have 1 subsidy token. Subsidy tokens values change based on your net worth. This is listed right here. They're worth nothing if you're a startup. But if you're a millionaire, they're going to increase your income by 1 for every subsidy token you have. So you can see that my income is 7 plus 1 since I'm a millionaire. If I were a billionaire, each subsidy token would be worth $2 in income. So my income would be 7 plus 2, and I would go to 9. Now, underneath your income, you see a tech worker count. 1, 2, and 3. This is the number of tech workers that's required to draw this amount of income. Don't worry if you don't have enough tech workers, though. If your income is 9, you can still only place 1 income, but then only draw the maximum amount associated with that. So, if my income's 9, and I put 1 tech worker on raise funds, then I can collect up to $8 in funds. Just for clarity, if my income was 20 or even 29, and I put 2 tech workers on raise funds, then I could collect 19 in funds, since that's the most amount you can collect with 2 tech workers. However, if I put all 3 tech workers on raise funds and my income is 29, then I could collect all $29. Any collected money will go into your corporate funds. Whenever a card or an action affects your reputation, you move along the reputation track, as we saw in some of the actions beforehand. The reputation track also gives you bonuses, so let's take a quick look at this. As a startup, you have access to Reputation Bonus Tile 1. To get Reputation Bonus Tile 2, you need to be the first person to Reputation 6 and have a millionaire net worth. And to get the final Reputation Tile 3, you need to be a billionaire and have a reputation of 10. If another player's reputation ever exceeds yours, they get to steal a reputation tile from you, if there are none remaining. So let's assume that all players are currently millionaires. And this is what their reputations look like. Since Orange has gotten to 6 and they're a millionaire, they now have access to Reputation Tile 2. This is going to give them a bonus that they can take and applies immediately. They'll simply place this next to their player mat. If Blue then gets to Reputation 7, and their turn, they can claim the next Reputation tile. And then they'll get this bonus, which will get them compute upgrades for $2 cheaper. Now, if Yellow gets to Reputation 6, they're tied with Orange, but Orange was first there, so they can't steal the Reputation tile from them. However, if they get to Reputation 7, then they could steal the Reputation 2 tile from the Orange player. And if in their turn they get to Reputation 8, so they're higher than both other players, they could steal from either other player, taking their choice. As I mentioned, you only need a startup net worth for this reputation tile. So the first player to get their reputation above 0 as a startup will have access to these bonus tiles. So in this example, Blue and Orange would have these 2 reputation tiles next to them. However, if Red goes to Reputation 3, they can then steal one of those tiles from either of the other players. Going through one more example, let's say that Red gets to Reputation 9, but they're still only a startup. They still don't have access to this bonus tile because you need to be a millionaire to get this one. And even if their reputation was 10 as a millionaire, they couldn't get this tile because you need to be a billionaire to get it. Finally, Reputation Tile 0 are negative effects. And if any player ever reaches Reputation -3, then they need to immediately take this and hold on to this negative effect until they get their reputation above that. Let's now jump to the end of the game to look at how you would score when you've finished. As a reminder, the game ends at the end of the round when any player reaches Model Version 7. Multiple players can reach Model Version 7, it's just the end of that round. But at the end of that round, you're going to calculate everyone's scores. So let's go through an example of calculating an endgame score. The first thing you get victory points from is every 5 power you have. So since my power is 19, I have 5, 10, 15, which gives me 3 victory points at the end. Next, you get a victory point for each model version you upgraded to. So since my model version is 3, that gives me 3 additional victory points. You also get 1 victory point per region where you have presence on the world map. I currently have presence on 1, 2, 3, 4 regions. So that would be 4 victory points. Then, if you drew any victory point tiles by being the first, second, or third player, depending on player count, of course, to become a millionaire or billionaire, you add that to your total score. And finally, the player with the most money in their personal funds will get 3 extra VP. This can all be seen in the top right corner of your player aid. So let's go through an example of a turn I would take in the middle of the game. I'm currently at a millionaire net worth, and I have 5 cards in my hand, which is the hand limit, and I have 5 tech workers. I've placed my tech workers so that number 1 is on play card. I'm not going to play any of the cards from my hand. Instead, I'm going to pay that 1 tech worker to play greenwashed carbon offsets, which is an active effect card that I've already played. So this will allow me to increase my reputation by 1 for every subsidy token that I have. I currently have 3 subsidy tokens. So this means that my reputation will go up 1, 2, 3. Since this is a 4-player game and I have the second highest reputation, I can't steal the reputation 1 tile from the red player, but I can claim this, which is going to give me an immediate bonus. Draw 1 extra card each round from any deck. So that was my first action. I played a card. The next thing I'm going to do is increase my net worth since I'm using Tech Worker 2. So I'm going to take my orange piece from here and claim the 2 VP token since I was the first person to become a billionaire. However, I'm going to have to pay $5 and lose 4 reputation for this. First, I'll take $5 and I'm going to put that in the bank. And then I lose 4 reputation, 1, 2, 3, 4, which means that yellow is going to steal the reputation bonus tile from me. But now that I'm a billionaire, I have access to Tech Workers 7 and 8, and I can upgrade to model version 5 or compute version 5 or above. I can also expand to new markets once I've used all of these up. Next, I placed 2 tech workers on raise funds. My income is currently 18, since my power is 15 and I have 3 subsidy tokens. Aha, but I just became a billionaire. So instead of being worth 1, these are now worth 2. So this goes from 18 to 19, 20, 21. So my income is 21, which means that if I have 3 tech workers there, I could get 21 monies. However, I only have 2 tech workers there, which means I can get the max here, which is 19. So the first thing I'll do is siphon off my corporate funds, and then I'm going to take $19 and put them in my corporate funds, which I can spend for other actions. My final tech worker is on scale presence. So I'm going to pay the cost for the next cheapest presence token, which costs $5. And then I can place anywhere adjacent to where I currently have presence. Since I want to start sabotaging blue, and pretty much all sabotage cards require that you have shared presence with the player that you're sabotaging, I'm going to place here. That allows me to take the subsidy token in this region, and I'm going to put that with my other subsidy tokens. Before we go, I want to clarify a few things on the cards. Some cards have a requirement that says net worth limits apply. This means that, for example, if you're increasing your compute level, you need to have the net worth required to get to that new compute level. So you can't go to compute level 6 if you're still a startup, for example. Most sabotage cards will say that you need to pick a competitor with shared presence. What this means is that you both have presence tokens on the same region in the world map. And finally, if a card says take a tech worker, it can typically be played this round unless the card specifically says the tech worker can be played next round. For example, flexible remote work policy allows you to take a tech worker this round, but it can't be played until next round. And it says this can be used starting next round. You should now know everything necessary to play a game of Disruptopia. Have fun.